everyone, welcome to the Man Alone YouTube channel. I am Man Alone, and welcome to my 100th video. I don't know how that happened. I was just posting videos, and then suddenly I got to my 100th. But boy, it doesn't feel like I've done more than 37. That's how much I enjoy it. And even though I have quite a backlog here of games I want to do reviews of, and playthroughs and page throughs, I wanted to take some time for my 100th video to reflect on the hobby that brings us all together. The hobby that is the raison d'etre of my channel, which is solo role-playing. Now, I've talked about in various ways throughout the time that this channel has existed why I love solo role-playing, what I think it has to offer, and I thought that I would bring that all together on one video. And to celebrate, I also wanted to use some futuristic technology that's available for videography. Now, if you're a longtime follower of the channel, you know this quite well. But if you're the new guy, then you probably are not aware that I do very little editing. And that is completely by choice. I don't like to edit. It's tedious, and it makes me not want to make videos. So a big reason why I did get to 100 videos is by keeping things low tech. But hey, I figured it's a special occasion, and I really wanted to celebrate. So I did put together what is called a PowerPoint presentation to present the information in this video. But before we even get to that, I wanted to make sure that I took a moment in this 100th video to recognize one of the many members of the channel who make this all possible. And so, again, this is the Rod Stewart member of the video, special member of the video, Hall of Fame, what we call the Rod's Greatest Hits list. And again, this may not work, but we're going to hope it does, to randomly generate one of our members here. And so I wanted to say thank you to, oh boy, Elijah Nezevich, or Ilijak Nezevic 8370. You are the Rod Greatest Hits member of the video. Thank you so much for your support. Couldn't do it without you. And you make my world go round. Round, round, baby, right round. And I can't thank you enough. I can't thank all the members who have made this possible. Boy, that has been such a special part of this channel to, expand into the podcast, and then also sort of deepen the parasocial relationships that I have with the members, because truly it has been a blast. Some hilarious people. If you want to join that elite cadre of people, why don't you wait till the end of the video? There's a pretty good sense of whether or not you're gonna like things. But if you want to be like Elijah the Nezevich and get the weekly podcast as well as the emojis and the the little waffle badge on your profile, please hit that join button below. If you're on iPhone, sometimes you have to do it on desktop. That makes me very sad. But what makes me happy, very happy, is solo role-playing games. And so without further ado, I figure we should get right into the meat of it. I am somebody who likes to get right to the point. And so let's see here. Great, it worked. So this is Man Alone's presentation on why I love solo RPGs. And just a couple of, not really ground rules, but just maybe like expectations here of what we'll see in this video. This presentation is going to have reasons why I like solo RPGs. And it will feature some of the most exceptional words and phrases and graphics you've ever seen. We're not going to be using any swear words other than possibly darn or the French-Canadian blaspheme tabernacle. The presentation took about 6 minutes to. That's not true. It took about 8 minutes to make, and it will be presented to, or at least submitted to Can. And it may occasionally have bullet points to take up additional space, but really, I don't even think there's that many bullet points. So, number one reason. Don't you hate it at meetings when people say, drum roll, please? No drum roll, silence. Reason number one, collector mode unlocked. So I have never successfully collected anything. I've always been somewhere between jealous of people who collect things or just befuddled. There's always a certain level of specificity with collectors, and the most intriguing thing is when the thing someone collects seemingly has nothing to do with their personality. I have a good friend, really, really tough, big, strong motorcycle riding guy, and he just loves collecting snow globes. And there's a room in his house that is all snow globes. Um, Now, I have done the week collecting, like the week entry in collecting. If you resonate with this, if you're someone like me who's never felt a natural compulsion to collect, and so you're like, oh, I'll collect coasters, or what was the thing I collect? Oh, I collect magnets, and I do have some fun magnets. And then sometimes people will come back from vacation and say, oh, I know you love magnets. I got you a new magnet. So I have like magnets from Um, Tajikistan on my refrigerator and stuff, but the low down dirty truth of it is I don't really like them that much. At one point I was like, I collect currency, but then I thought about it and I was like, well, that's just money. Like everyone's a currency collector. So I also have a big basket full of currencies from all over the world. But I've never had something that I feel like this compulsion, this urge to get especially to get like the collector's edition of something. That is such a foreign feeling to me. And yet here I am with solo RPGs where I am making some of the most gloriously stupid choices of my life, asking questions to myself like, well, I already have the starter box, which has everything in this, but I really need the hardcover book. Because wouldn't that hardcover book just look so good on my shelf? Strategizing the placement of solo RPGs on my shelf. Now, there is a dark side to this, as you well know. And again, this is something that I hope to make a video on at some point. It's getting out of hand. Like I'm kickstarting Kickstarters, like kickstarting people's ability to kickstart. And we really have to come together, folks, to figure out a way to make rent, because whatever the model is of Kickstarter, whatever subconscious subliminal thing that they do that makes me feel like this tremendous anxiety about whether or not I need to like click the submit button, how much I should go in on it. And then there's also this negotiation where I go, gosh, I really, really want this, but then I have to wait like a year. But really, that's just all part of being a psychotic collector of things. And I have to say that it is solo RPGs that has finally activated collector mode in me, and it's extending to other parts of my life. I'm starting to like collect achievements on video games. I'm starting to collect squirrels. I shouldn't say that on here. That was a joke. Forget that one. I just like them. They're my friends, and they're better friends when they don't move. You understand? Sorry, that's just another joke. Okay, reason number two. It is a form of non-psychotic self-care. So here's a couple self-care psycho things that I find just on a basic Google search really quick. You all know these graphics here. Right to the top left, we have someone trying to ascend to a higher plane of reality to destroy the deities that live there. Top right, we have a like a potted plant that can no longer suffer the curse of consciousness, and so they're both trying to dig out their brain matter and drown it. In the bottom left is a self-care is not lazy or selfish. Self-care is healthy. Self-care is important. Self-care is necessary. But what you don't see is the background of this picture. This stupid bald infant dinosaur has been walking alone in a post-apocalyptic desert. There's ashes all around them, and they're just going, self-care is healthy. Self-care is important. Then here's a self-care toolkit. You could tell that it's really going to help you because it's got a heart on every page. And boy, there's nothing I like more than to fill out a 78-page document about how I'm taking bubble baths. And then bottom right is just sort of this demonic graphic design format here, where you have someone that's made out of bubbles and flowiness and succulent plants. And they're just thinking about all of these things that they can do to drown out the suffering. Now, if you heard that and you don't identify at all with what I just said, there's a good chance that you probably aren't like, you know, one of my people, and that's okay. You could be one of the other people, but it's very hard to buy into this notion of self-care. Like intellectually, I know that self-care is a good thing, but it's one of the primary weapons of the cult of ultra positivity that I've never been able to swallow. And so, like many things in this polarized world that we live in today, you know, if you don't agree with something or the mode that something's delivered, you have this compulsion to run in the exact opposite direction. And so instead of saying, well, I'm not going to do aromatherapy, I'm just going to find, you know, dog turds and sniff those instead. The reality is that we all need time that is sectioned off in our day to do things that defragment the hard drive of our minds, to allow us to at least pretend momentarily that we have only an obligation to ourselves, which is never fully true, but we need just that release. We need time to go out into the forest and have a dagger between our teeth and hunt, even just for sport, not for food. And so, again, much like collecting, I've never been able to do any form of self-care. I loathe many forms of it. And I can't say I've felt jealous just because of my diametric opposition to it, but I've always felt like, how is it that when other people are stressed out, they could just sort of like listen to smooth jazz and do like a color by numbers coloring book, and suddenly they feel better, when for me, the response that I have to stressors in my life is to perseverate on them for 6 years and never truly let go of whatever grudge it was. So I must say, from experience, having solo play now, these things that I can sort of retreat into, these things that I can, you know, exercise a level of fascination and deep investigation, almost to the point of mindfulness, has been so good for me. And I really appreciate solo RPGs for that reason. Okay. Number 3, games as arbitrary obstacles. So 100 videos is about the time, I think, where you start forgetting whether you've talked about something before. This is one of my favorite quotes: the race is long, and in the end, it is only with yourself. And then also, games as arbitrary obstacles comes from, I can't remember who it was right now, but it was sort of a seminal philosophical work on the nature of games and the purpose of them. And the author of this, I think it was in the 60s, they tried to drill down to the most essential component definition of games. And ultimately, I really love when people sort of get to the heart of a definition of thing with like no fluff. And they're like, yes, games are the process of setting up arbitrary obstacles, right? So like, if you wanted, you could set up a chessboard and play against no one and make all of your pawns march across the table and annihilate the other row of pawns. You can arm your queen with a semi-automatic and you can give your king the what would we call it? The Colossus stomp power, so that they levitate over the board and then smash the other king. And then you can go ahead and take all the other team's chess pieces and throw them in your sink's garbage disposal and declare victory. That's the easiest way to win at chess. So every other book that says like how to get good or how to win at chess, it's wrong. The best way to win is to punch flatten every other chess piece on the other side, and then if you're playing with someone else, punch them in the face too, and then eat every chess piece. But that's no fun, because we like overcoming things. That is something that is programmed into human nature. Dare I say every organism, although humans have the luxury, along with our pals the dogs, luxury of, having leisure, and not every motion is required to like complete metabolic processes. And let's pour one out for like parameciums and other one-celled organisms that all they can do is extend a pseudopod to gulp up some fragment of food. We don't have to do that. And so occasionally we like to simulate difficulty, right? I mean, why do roller coasters exist? Why do people skydive? This is nuts, because as humans, we love simulating challenges, danger, right? And games allow us to do that, and they feed some essential instinctual part of us that is like the antidote to the Freudian death drive, right? This is why when you're feeling depressed, cleaning your room makes you feel better. Doing your monthly budget makes you feel better. It's why when you have a stack of tabernacle that you have to get through, and you are like, oh my gosh, I have so many things to do, I'm never going to get through all of them. You do one or two of them, and suddenly you feel productive, and you feel a bit more of like self-ownership. Games are essentially us deluding ourselves. As the Kundera book title goes, it is a game of laughter and forgetting, right? You want to forget that you can stand up and walk away. You want to forget that you could skip to the last page. Now, I go philosophically deeper than this, and this is potentially a turnoff for people, but it's just always what I've thought, is like thinking of reality, thinking of sort of the Godhead notion, how we're all sort of these fragments of this one being. If I were a supreme being in the universe and I was all alone and I was the all everything, something that I would do would be like fracture my consciousness in a trillion, zillion, quintillion pieces and forget that I am that supreme being. And then through like the process of reforming myself, I am once again, sort of like coalescing. I believe the nature of reality is a repetitive game, like the Big Bang, the Big Crunch. Okay, I've lost most people who have declared. If maybe there's some Catholics listening right now who have screamed tabernacle at me, but that's a blasphemy for you. Okay. What am I talking about? I'm Catholic. Okay. Reason number 4. It is almost impossible to have your own thoughts in 2024. The alternate title of this slide is "The World Does Not Want You to Create a New World in Your Head." Here are a bunch of pictures that should never exist. They exist because either people are infected by the brain poison that is social media, or they are part and parcel of the system that advances the hegemonic brain invasion that is social media. And so none of these things should be real. No one should be taking a picture of their food before they eat it. People that do that should be sent to like work camps. And they should still get 3 meals a day and stuff, but they should have that like ball and chain around their ankle, like some Dostoevsky novel, because this is all stuff that wants to distract you from the extremely happiness, pro-social, and life-affirming possibilities that you already have within you. It keeps pulling you out of the inside of yourself and saying, no, the real stuff is out here. Everything that's important is happening out here. Your brain, your thoughts, your mind, they're worthless. Your goal is to conform to these exercises that somebody, apparently somebody who knows better than you, wants you to focus on because you are just stupid and incompetent and you cannot possibly think for yourself. Solo gaming allows me to focus completely on my own thoughts. This would be, I guess, called metacognition. I'm able to notice the way I react to things. I'm able to notice the proclivities that my characters have. I begin to notice things that make me upset and then asking myself, why do I get upset when a character in a game of mine is one-upped? Is that because I have some sort of like know-it-all piece of myself and I don't like the idea of someone knowing better than me? Is it possible that I can work on humbling myself and accepting feedback or redirection? That is literally something that I came to understand in games, like through the reflective activity of playing a character. And I also realized that like I don't mind being corrected at all, but I am very sensitive to the way that people correct me. And there are so many like kind ways to correct somebody or give them new information, because who the hell knows if you're even or who the darn knows if you're even correct. But I've found that like even while I'm playing, if some other character NPC is like attempting to intellectually humiliate me, I feel sensitive to that. And I started to query this, to investigate this, and I started thinking about why that is and how often in my life I have reacted with hostility to somebody who is trying to give me good advice or trying to help me with something or even trying to save me from something because I didn't like the way that they said it. So that is just one example of the sort of insights I've garnered. But again, even those insights that are not like groundbreaking and intellectually enthralling and everything, even the ones that are just sort of it's like instead of white noise, it's pink noise. It's like cotton candy. Every bite is this glorious euphoria that's sort of fleeting and ephemeral, and then you never quite get what you want. You're always coming back for more. Even that, just that enjoyment of those things yielded by my own cognition is such a joy, and it is so rare. And I know that in this world, we are always trying to like poach that feeling off of something else. It's why if you've ever suffered through depression, you have put humiliating things into a Google search engine, like, why is everyone else happy but me? Or like, how do I respond to somebody when they make me feel less than, but it doesn't understand that? So you're like less than plus feeling bad plus other people, and then you get mad because you can't even do a Boolean search right. And then you Google, why am I so bad at Boolean searches on Google? And on it goes. I think that having time, just appreciating the rhythms, the movements, the tidal forces of my own thoughts in a way that solo play allows me to do has been incredibly enriching. Dare I say nourishing, mentally nourishing. See, now I'm using this self-care language. Have you nourished yourself? Have you watered your brain? Did you know there's an organism growing out of your brain? Well, it looks like a flower, but it's actually toxic. Okay, number 5. I need to create something or else I start to feel sick or dead. And yes, I did type into Google to find these pictures, pimp my coffin. Oh, I hope that's not a real person in the top right. If that is, I'm sorry for your loss, whoever that is. But I really need to create, and I don't always have time. Right now, as I'm making this video, I have to do the proposal for my doctorate in about 4 hours. And I occasionally do these things where I have to, like in the moment of, in a life moment where I have to produce something, I have to jump through a hoop for somebody else, when I have to prostrate myself and like defer to somebody else's judgment of me, I'll occasionally do something like this to like throw caution to the wind. And I know that, that could bite me down the line. But I think that it is a reminder to myself that like I am the only one who is responsible for telling me like if I've passed any tests or I have sufficiently, if I approve of myself. And um, again, there is in the echo chamber of social media, it becomes very hard to create. We start to have an anxiety. And even when we are not engaging with social media, what it has done to our collective unconscious is it has, and this is going to be some academic jargon here, so please forgive me, but it has placed the idea of the other constantly in our head. So we constantly have this critic or this moment of exposure where we subconsciously ask ourselves, okay, I really like this idea, but what if when other people find out about it, they make fun of me or they don't like it or they're confused or they're mad at me? And other than people I actually care about opinions of, like there are some people that have followed this channel long enough that I like really care about their opinions because they're meaningful and they've proven themselves to be like aligned with my vision of this hobby and stuff. But these tabernacles that come on the page and comment something that's just like they don't approve of it, I'm just like, well, uh, yeah, I mean, I bet you stink. I bet you got a stinky butt. I don't care about you. You come here, you've not invested anything in me, you don't know me, and you're just going to come and say something negative about me. Well, I devalue your comment, right? I don't care because it's meaningless to me. You're nobody, right? And I'm not trying to say that in a demeaning way of like you're nobody and nothing, but like in the sort of cyberscape of my mind, you are not a character. You're not even an NPC. You're just like a sentence that floats across the projector inside my mind. And so I what I do in my mind then is I take your sentence, I highlight it with my cursor, and I delete it. And literally I do that when I see anybody, and maybe I should admit to this, but it is like one of my favorite things to do. I don't need to censor anybody. I don't care if other people read it, but I'll just like ignore all posts from somebody who writes something that's like overtly not intended, like just mean. I'll just be like, okay, I'll just ignore you. And then that person can go ahead and keep writing comments, but like, I'll never see it. I've ignored them. And so all of this to say that when we start to inhabit our mind with the critic, when we allow that other to constantly be watching what we do, we begin to inhibit ourselves and we stop ourselves from having some truly wacky ideas. And actually, I want to present an example really quick of that. Okay. Let's see for a second. Okay, good. So some people were wondering about that little QR code that I had. So that was just a card that was included in a package that was sent to me by Neon Rot, who sent me a sample of Bilge, which is a solo RPG, a GM-less mapping game for 1 to 4 players. And this game is totally whacked out. It is incredible. First of all of the art was done with a Game Boy camera, and you could tell. And it's obviously like Game Boy camera pictures that are sort of like crunched, munched, and reprocessed a million times over just to create these like fascinating and horrifying images that look like they're sort of like taken inside, like what the Magic School Bus would actually see if it went inside a body. And the concept for this is like they've these corpos who are in the future are sending out these crafts to find resources on other planets, and they find this planet that's a big ocean, and everything about this ocean is like, oh yeah, this ocean is going to be teeming with life. And they're looking and they keep taking samples and they can't find any life. And they're like, what the hell? This doesn't make sense. Like, this is the primordial soup. And then they discover after 3 years that like the shelf on the bottom of this ocean like surfaced. So it was some sort of enormous creature the size of the United States that just like lays dormant and surfaces every 3 years, which is so eldritch to me. Like the idea of, and I don't necessarily love the sentence I just said. It's so eldritch, but like the idea of this creature is the only one of these on this planet. How was it made? Is there another one? Was it brought there? What is its purpose? Right. But you also, as you're creating these maps, like you have crunch. You have, instead of like strength, wits, empathy, or agility, you have flesh, spike, and crunch. And crunch is a stat that says used for melding acts, such as making a weapon out of bone or tearing open an internal sphincter. So instead of there being like gates or doors in this, you are exploring the inside of this like massive whale creature called a leviathan. And so you have to open like sphincters, like internal sphincters. Like, you know, if you had like moving from the appendix up to the pharynx or the epiglottis or whatever. And this is bananas. This whole idea is bananas. And I'm so glad it exists, because if Neon Rot allowed the internal voice to say, this is a bonkers approach to this, you can't do it, you should make a game that's more like other games, you should have armor class, you should have elves, you know, if they had allowed that to inhabit their mind, then we would never have this. And the critic, or that other, it loathes anyone else having control over the narrative. It has to manage decline. It has to manage that, the sort of Overton window of what is acceptable. And so when somebody is able to overcome that, when they're able to, what is that thing called when you, a hurdle, when you're able to like leap over a hurdle and say, no, I don't care about your stupid rules, that is when we push things forward. That is when we expand the hobby. That's when we expand what is acceptable. And this is where we start to, you know, on that rim of what is acceptable and what is known. Beyond that is something new. And that's where we start to terraform new lands within the hobby. So I feel that in solo RPGs, this gives me this opportunity to place myself as my only critic. And it allows me, even when I'm just playing, right? Because sometimes it's hard to be creative when you just like don't have a full idea. You're not ready to put something together. You're not ready to sit and write that book. You're not ready to like do this wonderful oil painting. Just playing a game of solo play is going to achieve or be as meaningful to your lizard brain as like writing a book, even though the book you just wrote is just like notes on your session. And it's hard for me to manage the sort of, to balance out the desire I have for creation with the ability to create new things. And so what happened often before I discovered this hobby is I would feel this compulsion to create, and I wouldn't be able to create at the scale I wanted, right? I wouldn't be able to write something really profound, or I wouldn't be able to come up with a new idea. And so that urge to create would go unsatisfied. And then this would feed into a loop about my own self-concept and like, oh, I guess I'm not creative, or I guess I'm not able to have new ideas, etc. And when I play now and I have one of these sessions again, my brain is satisfied, it's fed. And so that in turn is a way for me to tell myself, oh, actually you are competent in this. You should be confident to create. You are a creative person. And once again, if that's a real person in the top right, you know, I'm sorry, the coffin is awesome. Oh, shoot. Here we go. Okay, reason number 6. I'm being silly in this one, but I do have a point to this. No one smokes anymore, so it's hard to find cool people. Yeah, so I was a smoker, right? I think a lot of people were smokers if you're like over 30. And one of the things that I would say kept me smoking well past the point, it's not like at any point I didn't know that it was bad for me or anything, but the Smoker's Cove in like college and going out for a smoke break, there were always, for some reason, I'd be like, why is it that I so often get along with other smokers? Is it just that thing of like having something that you do? But I always think, well, first of all, I think there was like this tiny bit of fatalism or pointlessness of like, yes, I know I'm doing this activity that not only is robbing me of time and opportunity and money, it is also like fast tracking my death. It is repellent to some people, and it truly is, because when I'm around cigarette smoke now, I'm like, oh my gosh, I used to smell like that. But it was this quick way to find, not everybody, obviously. Every once in a while, you'd go out and you'd meet like Cheryl Blandsworth, who'd be like, "Oh, you're smoking mob reds. Might I bum one from you, sweetie?" Like, I don't, well, actually, she sounds pretty awesome. But, it wasn't one to one always my kind of person. But for whatever reason, and I'm not fully able to put a lasso around this idea in my head yet, but I just tend to get along with solo role players. I think most of the people that interact that are interested in this hobby, um, they have something about them. It might not be the best thing. It might be some sort of like willingness to subject ourselves to like stress over something that doesn't exist. And what does that say about us? Um, there's also like, I think often shared origin stories to solo play, right? Like you just didn't fit in a group, you couldn't find a group, you're tired of like the way that groups tend to form now or whatever that is. And so there is this often a rejection, either you rejecting something or something rejecting you. And I have just found that this is weirdly, because it's solo RPGs, it's people playing alone, but weirdly, it has awesome people in it. And there is a great community. And that is very paradoxical, but it's undeniable. There's a great community in this. And so, yeah, it's, I guess you could say it's my new Smoker's Cove. Light me up. Reason number 7, we are at the precipice of something great. This is just a sort of, I typed in like solo RPGs into a search engine, and this was some of the results that came up. It really wanted me to search for Colossal. We are on the precipice of something here. We are first movers, and there is, as the great Phil Collins says, there's something in the air tonight. There's about to be some sort of shift, whether that is in the technology of solo play or in the widespread acceptability or in the norms around RPG play, that it starts to incorporate solo play in new ways. There is something emerging here. And when there is some sort of shift or something emerging, you really want the right people steering the ship. Because if you don't have that, there's all sorts of chance for mayhem, bloodshed, and chaos, right? Like, you want there to be a strong core to that. And I don't really know exactly what's going to happen next, but I feel it. Like it is, the tea leaves, the mist. Like I see the mist, and it's like coming into a shape that I find familiar, but I can't yet name that shape. And so I just think it is very rare to be part of something before everyone else is a part of it. And there will be trials, I think, coming up. I mean, as I'm, and this might not be for a decade, right? I'm not saying it's going to happen tomorrow, but sort of experiencing that with Warhammer, like an influx of people in 40K, and a lot of people are like, oh, hey, this is cool. And then, there's the sequelae from there can be, well, I think this is cool. I just want to change it a little bit to what I like and stuff like that. But I don't think it's good form here to focus on the negative of that. I think that there's a possibility here that we start seeing more resources, more time. I mean, even the fact that Free League has an entire like clickable sub page on their website for which of their games have solo play, that they're including solo play sections in almost every new game. There's something happening here, and it's just cool to be on the ground floor of that. Okay. There's number 8. There's always infinity more hours of solo play left to do. Yeah. One of the things I love about it is that I like solo card games and some solo board games and stuff. I like video games, and even sort of like massive multiplayer online games, which I do not like, or games that is just like, you can grind forever. Yes, I suppose in those there's infinity time left, but you're always dealing with the constraints of the code of the game, and you're always waiting for a new sip of something from the publisher or creator. I like that I am the publisher and creator. Like, I know, yes, I'm not like publishing the games, right? But like, I am the publisher of my campaign, my session. And I just love the fecundity, the idea that there can be so many things born from, I just showed that booklet Bilge. Well, that has 55 pages, but if you were to tally up all the different campaigns that people are going to play of that, and you definitely should, it looks great, by the way. I'll put a link into it. If you were to line those up end to end, it would go around the Earth's circumference 91 times. That's proven. I don't know that for sure, but I'm just saying it's massive. It's massive. The amount of content that is produced from a 55-page book, I would imagine, is at least 10,000 pages. That's exciting to me because I don't have to have that sort of existential dread about like, oh, I'm approaching the end here. If you're a reader, there is that thing sometimes where you finish a book and you see you have like 6 pages left, and then you finish it, and before you start a next book, it's almost like having a dog that died. You don't want to go out and get a new dog right away. It just feels like gross. And you finish a book and you're like, boy, I miss it. Like, I miss having that book. Or even if you finish like a really good TV series and you just don't have it in your life anymore. I get to determine that. And I am able to bring things to a satisfying conclusion or not. I can come back into things when I like. I have a Dragonbane campaign that I played on this channel. There is, under my left foot, in fact, because I have a little storage chest under the table here that I also use as a footrest. There is like my notes for that. So I can pick that up and re-enter into that world and re-enter into that character. Number 9, speaking of getting towards the end, it's just for me. I think this is in so many ways like putting together a lot of the pieces that I've already said, so I won't go too far on this. But again, there are very few things that are just for you, and there are very few things like, there's so many goodies in the world now. There's so many free things and promo codes, and it's easier than ever to get all your dreams and fantasies satisfied. And I can order something on Amazon and it will like be here in 5 hours, and you can 3D print things, and it's just a matter of time before I'm like replicating, bacon and eggs. But just the way that the sort of, the economics, the physics of this world are beginning to congeal into whatever they are now. There's lots of things that we are free to enjoy, but very few of them that are ours. A lot of things are on loan. A lot of things are they're ours, but they're very degradable. They go away very quickly, or they lose their luster very quickly. They have a very fast, diminishing marginal utility, right? They just don't hit like they once did, and that seems to happen sooner and sooner with things. And I can honestly say I've never had a solo campaign that I've definitely had solo campaigns where I'm like, okay, I'm done. Like, that's good. That's a good sort of arc. But I've never had it where I'm like, oh, I'm bored. Like, I don't really like this anymore. Because it's mine. And so it's got like my fingerprints and myself invested into it. And so having that, it becomes what I want it to become. And usually the reason why we let go of things that are very like ephemeral is that we are alienated from them. We don't recognize them anymore. It's the reason why now that, like, when I got a video game when I was a kid, I didn't care how crappy that game was. I played the hell out of it. You had very little control over the games you got. And so, like, my mom would try to be cool and she'd be like, "Oh, guess what I got? A video game." And there was like no distinguishing about like what kind of video game it is. So it was like, "Oh, cool. Hide Lied. Wow." And you just turn it on, or it's like, some movie adaptation that never should have been made into a game. It'll be like Basic Instinct, the game or something. And you're like 7 and you're like, what the hell am I supposed to do with this? But it's all what you got. There was a game for Nintendo called Fester's Quest. So Uncle Fester, you had a flame whip. You'd walk around and hit like eyes. And this game was impossible. It was terrible. And I must have sunk 500 hours into it. But now, well, I can get any game I want right now. And in fact, I have like Game Pass, so I could just get 500 games if I want to. They mean less because they have less of me in them. I'm alienated. There's less investment, and so they're easier for me to divorce myself from. And so, yes, that's right. This picture, I am saying that SoloRPG is a mukbang of the mind. Huh. I'm pretty smart. What do you think? That's a pretty genius thing to say. Number 10, every part of it is fun and every part of it is part of it. I see a lot of people saying, I buy a lot of solo games. I read a lot. I read about them a lot. I watch a lot of videos, and I just don't play them. And for those people, I want you to play. That's why I created like a lot of the activities that I do, get people involved, get them playing. And it makes me so, so happy to see the feedback from that, to see people like, just thank you for, pushing me over that point to actually play, because it was so valuable. But it really is true. Like, all of it is part of this, because the actual goal of this is to hop inside the sort of convertible of your mind and drive where you want. When I was little, and this is like before I was a teenager, so I would have fantasies that I'd go to sleep, but I was a little kid, right? And so they were different than the before sleep fantasies when I was like 17 or whatever. But I used to fantasize about having a car, and I used to have a dream that I got like a little car. It was like slightly bigger than what were those, Power Wheels. It was a real car. And I would drive around, and I'd pick up my friends, and we would just go anywhere. And I used to just think about like, gosh, how amazing would that be? I can't wait till I have a car. I can go anywhere I want. I can just transport myself. And then, I have to say, and Mr. 55 would back me up on this, as would BB, I love to drive. So I am very likely to just be like, yep, let's go. We're going to go, we're going to go to Branson, Missouri. We're going to go to Santa Fe, wherever, because I do love to just travel. But, there's all these stupid things that make your world smaller as an adult. I can't do it because I've already taken this many PTO days or whatever. And it's not that they're invalid. We're all just trying our best here. And talk about arbitrary obstacles, like your workplace. There's no place better at giving arbitrary obstacles. But if you feel transported, if you feel like you have hopped in the car in your mind and you have gone elsewhere, then you should feel proud of that. Because when we do something very often, we can forget how rarely other people do it because it feels very normal to us. And unfortunately, so many people, like, their car of their mind is like rusted out. Its engine block fell. It's sitting in the front yard. You know, you keep saying you want to get around to fixing it. You never do. We cannot lose that ability to travel wherever we want, to like literally astral travel to this castle in this picture right now. We need to hang on to that because there are many, many things that imprison us and imprison our body, not as often in this world. This world's very civilized and it's very nice and it's very free and open, but there's lots of things that want to shackle up your thinking and your mind. And so if you can maintain, you know, this last inch of yourself to just say like, yes, but you cannot stop me from going to this picture. You cannot stop me from going to a place that's totally different than this. Then you can never be like imprisoned because you'll always have that way out. To be a little bit cringily sincere, I'm about to hit 6,000 followers, which is so funny. I don't know why. I'm about to hit 6,000 volunteers. 6,000 volunteers. Thank you, volunteers. Now that you didn't know that you're part of a volunteer force. 6,000 followers. And I think about this thing that people say when they're like getting a lifetime achievement award, and they say, you know, it would have been nothing without my team and all the people. And like, you hear that and you're like, God, this is such bullshit. Like, they're Bull Tabernacle. Like, there's no way that this person feels this way. But I am left in a place where I'm like, I really, really feel that way, is I'm having a hell of a good time. And I just think it's just a fun place to be. I don't even know how it's possible, but it's just like fun to read your comments, to respond, to get. I forgot, somebody sent me some Orc Knuckles just sent me something the other day, a video of a guy being like, I have meatball splotches on my meatball case that I bought from the store, and I was like, this is insane. What is this? And I just loved it. Like, I just love it. And so, you know, as it grows, it gets harder to connect with everyone. I'm sure at some point I'll have some sort of a, you know, scandal where I say something in a video that like PETA or something doesn't like. But I want you to know that when that happens, I'm going to just keep doing what I've done this whole time, which is just laugh about it because it's so fun and it's so funny. And I love solo play, and I love helping people to get into this, and I love having this channel. And we're just going to keep going because let's just make this stupid experiment even stupider because as Buzz Lightyear says, you know, to infinity, but not forever. Sincerely, Buzz Lightyear. Oh no, I did the... Is that the right Buzz Lightyear? Is that Buzz Aldrin? Is he based on Buzz